Hey there. My name is David Boice, author of 52 Churches in 52 Weeks. Today, we're going to be talking about 10 of the most beautiful, most touristy churches in the United States. When I was visiting a new church each week, there was something about the beauty, the expressions in stone, the expressions in wood, or the expressions in stained glass that a lot of these churches preached through its architecture. And these churches, these buildings, they were embodiments of God's glory as close as humans could get using earthly materials. These 10 were ones that spoke to me. If you have another church that you think should be on here, feel free to leave a comment below. Would love to hear those. While you're at it, like and subscribe. I'll be doing future videos with several of these churches with their own individual videos in the future. So let's get right into it. So first on the list is the Washington National Cathedral in the nation's capital. The cathedral serves as a spiritual home for America while paying tribute to America's history and values. So the cathedral, it's filled with all these memorial bays to commemorate presidents, leaders, and events of national significance. There's a bronze statue of Abe Lincoln with a fluorescent set of pennies. There's all 50 state flags draped along the nave. And there's also stained glass windows that commemorate everything from creation to man's first landing on the moon. The tomb of Woodrow Wilson, former president, also resides inside the sanctuary. So the cathedral, it's structured after 14th century English Gothic churches, which means there's plenty of stone gargoyles and grotesques lying around the building. So although it's rare, tickets can be available for gargoyle tours on the upper levels during summer months. If you don't get tickets, but have a pair of really good binoculars, you might even be able to spot the grotesque with the Darth Vader helmet perched on the northwest tower. Second on the list is the Basilica of St. Josaphat, located along the Milwaukee skyline. So the architecture was modeled after the famed St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. Outside, the front is supported by huge Corinthian-sized pillars that rise nearly 100 feet in height, with the top bookmarked by twin bell towers. The most significant attraction is the Copper Dome, which towers over 250 feet and is rumored to be larger than the Taj Mahal. Inside, you're met not by standby ushers, but instead you're greeted by two 4-foot-tall angelic statues holding clammed patens of holy water. With the way the light illuminates through the darkness, matched with the harmony from the organ and choir above, it's a dizzying experience staring above and seeing breathtaking oil paintings of angels, prophets, and saints that adorn the inner dome, their hands touching between the ceiling and the wall. Next on the list is the St. Louis Cathedral in New Orleans. This is about 2 blocks from Bourbon Street, but it's incredibly photogenic in front of Jackson Square's courtyard. Despite being right on the Mississippi River and taking Hurricane Katrina's best blows several years ago, the cathedral has survived the elements to stand tall as the oldest continuously used Catholic church in the U.S. It's even rumored to have inspired the design for Disney's Cinderella Castle, which is hard to dispute when the cathedral's clock strikes midnight and you can picture Cinderella darting out with a missing glass slipper. Inside, you're greeted by baby angels with more holy water. Sermons are preached from a clam-shaped pulpit. Hanging over the congregates are several flags of the Catholic dioceses, as well as countries that own the land while the cathedral had been standing. So the flags include previous Louisiana owners like Spain and France, plus the 1803 American flag to pay homage to the Louisiana Purchase when the United States purchased the land from France. For number 4, we're going back to Washington, D.C. for the largest Roman Catholic church in North America, the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception, which is a mouthful. Outside the Basilica, Trinity Dome mosaic, along with a 329-foot tall bell tower, makes the Basilica the second tallest building in D.C., behind only the Washington National Monument. A nun would need to pick up your jaw from dragging on the tile after you see the sheer size of this place inside. There's countless statues, art, and paintings featuring traditional Catholic depictions in every direction. There's a total of 80 Marian chapels that flank the sides of the great upper church and downstairs crypt chapel, with multiple international representations. There also is a life-size cutout of Pope Francis for some reason. When I visited, it looked a little out of place. Moving from traditional churches to more niche churches, fifth on the list might appear pretty strange, but stick with me on this. The Precious Moments Chapel in Carthage, Missouri is one to behold. If you grew up in the late 70s and 80s, you may be familiar with Precious Moments, which were childlike figures cast as prophets, angels, or other biblical characters created by Samuel Butcher. Well, due to the popularity at that time, Butcher created his own Precious Moments theme park, deriving inspiration from the Sistine Chapel to create his own chapel as the main attraction. There's no actual services here, just hourly tours. From what my tour guide said, they once held a wedding, but it didn't really turn out so well because of the way the lighting worked. The wedding photos didn't really come out too well. But if you spend some time here, you'll feel inspired, not by words, but instead by the chapel's numerous murals. In the center is an 18 by 26 foot portrait called Hallelujah Square, which is a depiction of heaven that took Butcher 20 years to complete. In it, Christ is painted differently than all the other childlike characters, extending his arms to allow his children to come home. Random on this list, but absolutely astonishing, next is the United States Air Force Academy Cadet Chapel in Colorado Springs. When you walk on base, one of the first things you'll notice is the modernistic architecture of 17 spires made of tubular steel triangle pyramids. Each one is 75 feet tall and weigh 5 tons. Now, the chapel was designed to house 3 distinct worship areas: a Protestant chapel on the upper level, a Catholic chapel on the bottom, and a Jewish chapel. The Protestant chapel in particular is amazing to see. There's stained glass windows, almost like in a ribbon type of formation, with all types of colors using the triangle pyramids and then progressing from a dark to light as it reaches the altar. Eventually, more chapels were opened for other religions, including Buddhist, Muslim, and more earth-centered religions. Next, we'll take a look at some of the more organic churches. For those who ever pilgrim through the cornfields of Nebraska, next is the Holy Family Shrine in Gretna, Nebraska. The shrine is more of an opportunity for quiet contemplation, which is more of a one-of-a-kind sanctuary to draw closer to nature, your faith, and even Christ. So the chapel is comprised of red cedar and glass, with the structure almost interlacing, like it's like waving wheat in a field, which is supposed to be a nod to Jesus being the bread of life. There's a stream that flows to the chapel and then splits to opposite sides of the aisles when you come inside. The water culminates and flows into a pool beneath the altar for the Eucharist, providing symbolism for both baptism and communion. Obviously, you can't help but notice the glass windows that overlook the land, too. Above the altar, the largest window of the chapel shows an image of the Holy Family etched in glass. When discussing the most beautiful churches in the world, Thorncrown Chapel is usually on almost every list. Thorncrown Chapel is in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, and is nestled in the Ozark Pines soaring skyward with an abstract zigzag architecture. Although it looks like an open-air structure, it's actually enclosed by glass, and it's aided by a skylight to allow for really great lighting. Because of the glass, the use of nature is an integral part of the spiritual experience. Result is absolutely incredible. It's relaxing, it's quiet, and it's such a unique setting for a church experience just being in the forest. One thing the architect didn't realize was that when he designed interior cross-shaped lanterns for the sides, it would illuminate outside with several, I don't know how to say this, cross ghosts, which in person looks mysteriously eerie, but amazing all at the same time. Next on the list, just outside LA, is Wayfarers Chapel. And it's above the cliffs from the Pacific Ocean. Now, I promise this is the last class church on the list. This one incorporates the sights and sounds of your surroundings like the others. But there's moments of peace where you can meditate on the sounds of stream water that they have inside. But then at the same time, you can be looking out with this panoramic view of the Pacific Ocean as birds literally fly over you and then perch in trees above you. Of course, you're separated from the roof glass and all that. But now, because of the scenic location, Wayfarers Chapel has attracted Hollywood to film various wedding scenes for TV shows, movies, and music videos. Some of the TV shows include The Rockford Files, The OC, and Lucifer. Last but not least is the Chapel of the Holy Cross in Sedona, Arizona. When you drive up as the sun beams down on the red rock, you see this giant cross speared into the cliff like Excalibur. The chapel literally looks derived from Matthew 16:18. Upon this rock I will build my church. Inside, the sanctuary is quite quaint. The max capacity is only 150 people. There's various sculptures and tapestries throughout, as well as a ton of prayer candles. Behind the altar are glass windows to give a wide panoramic overview of Sedona's terrain. They do hold Tayez prayer on Monday evenings. And when I went, they didn't have this available, but on Fridays now they have adoration, confession, and mass. So those are 10 of the most beautiful churches, in my view, of churches in the United States. Stay tuned for more. I'll be doing separate videos on each of these individual churches to kind of go a little bit more into each one. So until next time, my name is David from 52 Churches in 52 Weeks, and hope you have a good day.